नमस्कार, मैं हूं मनोज मनु। आपका स्वागत है इंडिया न्यूज में। आप देख रहे हैं मुद्दे की बात। हम विस्तार से चर्चा करेंगे उत्तराखंड के शहर जोशीमठ की, लेकिन उसके पहले हम आपको सीधे लिए चलते हैं इंदौर, जहां पर नीति आयोग के अमिताभ कांत कुछ बोल रहे हैं।
Really to showcase India to the world. We are, as Mrs. Shingla will talk at length, we are doing this in 56 cities. There are several ministerial meetings being held. And in addition to that, there are within the Sherpa track, we are doing several working groups meetings across various cities of India. And the whole of government approach means that every single ministry is involved, the finance ministry is involved, and then there are various engagement groups, which is non-governmental nature. That is engagement groups where civil society is involved and they are driving development and change. They are promoting the brand value of India. They're providing the goals. So they support the Sherpa track in many ways by their recommendations. This year we started a startup group, which is very important, startup engagement groups, because India's the number 3 best ecosystem for startups. We have about 80,000 startups. We've developed about 110 unicorns. Their value is about 340 billion. We are doing about 80 startups a day now. When we started the Startup India movement in 2016, there were just about 116 startups. Today we have 80,000 startups. In India, we are creating 4 unicorns a month. There are only 6 months to a unicorn, whereas in other countries it's taking 3 to 4 years. And therefore, one of the key engagement group is the startup group. Now, our shared priorities are very important because we want to shape an inclusive future. We are sharing India's experience during G20. We want the world to benefit on key global issues from India. And therefore, as you will see, what are India's priorities? Our priorities are that how do we accelerate growth, inclusive and resilient growth? How do we bring in technological transformation? How do we push digital public infrastructure, which India has built up? How do we do women-led development, because more than 50% of the world is women? How do we drive accelerated progress on sustainable development goals? How do we bring in live green development, climate finance? And how do we build multilateral institutions for the 21st century? And how do we face the challenge of fuel, food and fertilizer, which are major challenges before the world today? So these are India's G20 priorities, which we'll push all through our G20, and these are key priorities for the world as well. Now, ladies and gentlemen, one of the key issues about digital transformation to the world is that the Bank of International Settlement has said that India in the last 7 years has made progress which would have taken 50 years to achieve. We have achieved this in about 7 to 8 years. If you look at the world, we have achieved this in 50 years progress in 7 years. But if you look at the world, there are 400 crore people who do not have a digital identity. Everybody in India has a digital identity. Everybody in India has a bank account. 200 crore people do not have bank, they are unbanked. And 133 countries in the world do not have a digital payment system. So how do we create the India model for the rest of the world is a very major challenge, and that is what we will try and push. The other is India's digital payment infrastructure, which has been built up, which has been talked all over the world. Satya Nadella, Sundar Pichai were all here, they were all talking about it. If you look at it, in 2013, we had done direct benefit transfer of only 10,000 crore. In 2020, we have done transfer of 5.5 lakh crore. So we were able to help 47 crore people during the COVID phase by putting money directly into their bank account. So this was the key. And that is how the digital public infrastructure has helped the people of the world. Now what India has done is to create the best digital public infrastructure model, which is the JAM Trinity, the UPI, the CoWIN, the Bharat Bill Pay, our tax collection is all digital, Swayam, Diksha, in education, digital health, e-governance services, digital toll system. So the digital transformation has enabled India to technologically leapfrog in many, many ways. And that has been the hallmark of India's growth story in the last 7 to 8 years. How do you build railway tracks? Tracks on which we've allowed private sector to innovate and take it forward. Similarly, the great story of India is the story of health architecture, because we have provided health insurance to over close to about 500 crore people, which is more than the population of Europe. We are the vaccine capital of the world. We are the pharmacy capital of the world. We provided vaccines to 75 countries in the world. We are the generic drug capital of the world. We have converged Ayurveda and yoga with our health, and these are key challenges. These are the big ticket things that we have pushed in the world as far as health is concerned. And we built a robust, inclusive health model for India, which can then be taken to the rest of the world. Now, the Prime Minister wants us to do, this to be a complete whole of government approach. So we are doing several things. We are linking up with festivals, doing outreach, on which Mr. Shingla will talk about it at length. We are linking this up with festivals of India. He'll talk about it. But our objective is that we create a unique Indian experience, which is very spiritually elevating, which is culturally enriching for every visitor who comes from abroad, which is mentally rejuvenating and physically invigorating. Our objective is that every visitor who comes from abroad may be a representative of his country, must go back totally spiritually as an Indian when he comes here. And that is what we'll try and do. That is what we've done when we took the ambassadors to Andaman. We taught them yoga. They went to the cellular jail to get a feel of India's great independence movement. They did the Shanknath. They actually cleaned the beaches in Andaman. When we took them to Udaipur, Udaipur was a transformed city. We welcomed them. We cleaned, the whole city was cleaned up, but we gave them a Rajasthani-style pagadi welcome. They all did digital shopping, completely digital experience. They did the camel rides. Their shopping was all completely unique of Indian handicrafts. They interacted with the school children. And this is the meeting which we had in Udaipur, which was excellent, and we shared a lot of millets, because India's attempting, this is the year of millets, and therefore our focus was on millets. We took them to Kumbhalgarh, which is the biggest wall, one of the greatest forts in the world, which totally lit up, and we did some great cultural programs there. And this is the city palace, which was lit up. So just giving you a glimpse of how we did our branding, and we said that starting with Udaipur, we'll see you soon in another city of India. And then we took them to Mumbai, where all the roads were cleaned up, all the potholes were cleaned up. The city was whitewashed completely, it was lit up, and there was a huge cultural experience all over. And they had a great experience of the heritage sites there, and the interaction was similarly in Bangalore. We are using this as an opportunity to demonstrate our culture, our cities, and as the Prime Minister said, our presidency would be inclusive, it'll be ambitious, it'll be action-oriented, and very, very decisive. And that is how we'll steer it, but we'll put a great Indian experience. Now, what do we expect from this is a huge unparalleled opportunity for India and the world, and the next decade, as Morgan Stanley has just said, that the 4 trends of demographics, digitization, decarbonization, and deglobalization are favoring New India. This is what Morgan Stanley has just said about a month back, and therefore we will use the growth process of India, the dynamism of India, the demographics of India, the digitization of India, the decarbonization of India, all to drive the story. And all of you are really the brand ambassadors, as the Prime Minister said in the morning. And therefore, members of the diaspora have a huge role to play in G20. They can share our values and help further the presidency efforts abroad. You can spread awareness about India's financial inclusion and technological transformation model. We'll be very happy to share this with you. You can help us to popularize global initiatives. that resonate with our culture and our G20 presidency. You can promote India's narrative globally on all the digital transformation that has taken place, on Swachh Bharat, on Life, on UPI, on CoWIN, on Aadhaar, on millets. There can be nobody better than to push for digital transformation, for women-led development, for sustainability, climate-based initiatives. You can vocalize the Indian narrative. All of you have a very major role to play, and you are our brand ambassadors for G20. And therefore, you can promote issues and initiatives prioritized. You can be our cultural ambassador. You can popularize all our initiatives such as yoga, Ayurveda, lifestyles, digital payments, and you can organize events and activities in your respective countries to highlight issues taken up by India during its G20 presidency. All of you have a major role because you can support businesses and initiatives that align with the goals and priorities of our G20 presidency. You can start discussion on issues that India will take up through your conferences, workshop and other events, and you can engage extensively with media and share India's G20 priorities. We will welcome all of you to play a major and key role in this. So, ladies and gentlemen, I request you all to be the brand ambassadors of India G20 presidency. We'll be very, very happy to handhold you, to work in partnership with you, and to assist and support you in making India's G20 presidency a unique experience for the rest of the world. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. May I now request my colleague, Mr. Shingla, who's been our Foreign Secretary. He's been our ambassador in Washington, in Thailand, in Bangladesh, who's managing the chief coordinator on all G20 issues. May I request him to kindly make his presence.